Hi, welcome. I want to share with you today a little introduction into divine spiritual calligraphy. So, what is that, divine spiritual calligraphy? Well, essentially, I call it calligraphy, and if you look around me, you can see a number of framed items on the walls. These are what I call divine spiritual calligraphy. And I use the word calligraphy for lack of any other better descriptive term. And how they actually come to being follows a process that is very much like traditional type of calligraphy artwork, especially related to the Asian styles. So that is why the term calligraphy is in place. There can be many terms to represent this, but this is the one I felt was closest to what was happening. And you say, well, what about the divine, spiritual, or sometimes universal uh, word that's being used there? Well, that's because when when this happens and for me, through me, it is through me, not from me. So I'm being inspired by a spiritual message, a universal message, or in some cases, a divine message. And you can say, well, really, divine's talking to you? Well, yeah, why not? Can't the divine talk to us? Can we not have a relationship with the divine? My own experience says yes, we can. And at times, divine shares stuff with us. And specifically, that is how some of this manifested is the messages you see in the wall behind me are mostly are part of a book that I was inspired to create called Divine Messages. Each of these messages is called divine because inspiration, spiritual guidance directed me to say divine, call them divine messages. So it wasn't really my choice. And at the time, I thought, wow, I'm a little nervous about using that terminology as a human aspect of myself, but I was, you know, directed, use that. So what does that mean? That means that in the divine realm, if you want to call it, or divine spiritual aspects of the universe that is different than our physical manifestation of the universe, is where those divine messages came from. And the reason that those particular 28 messages came was in the purpose of not for me, but for anybody who happens to encounter them, to help them on their spiritual, energetic, mental, emotional, physical journeys. So in the beginning, it kind of came almost in a spontaneous type of expression for me. I had been studying spirituality with a number of different teachers and some very specific teachers for a number of years. And then this kind of just manifested. Took 5 years after that manifestation for me to learn, to grow, and to understand what it was, how to properly manifest it, how to properly express it, and what the different tools are required for that to happen. And then also be introduced to the multitude of sources who eventually made themselves aware to me that yes, we will work with you. And that grows all the time. And when I do these, I never know what they're going to look like, and I never know what message they're going to share until it actually happens. So for me to prepare to say I'm going to do this, it may not come that way. Because when I ask, is this the message? Sometimes they say, no, this is the message. And that happened throughout that divine message book all the time. My mind says, hey, do this message. Spirit, divine inspiration says, don't, no, we want this message instead. So it's a very interesting story to go back through that to understand how that manifested. And that I could talk like that for a very long time about that story, but really want to focus today on these calligraphies themselves. So they, as you see on the wall, they're represented here, and sometimes they'll be small on a card like this. This is part of a card deck, a guidance card deck. This is a little bit larger here. This is a a greeting card, divine calligraphy greeting card. And other times they may show up as a, like an art card, like this is an art card. And I do these also for people upon request, where it's a personal calligraphy just for them. And in that case, it may look completely different than this. It's on like a rice paper, a parchment paper, a type of a silk brocade scroll, things like that. So those are unique. Every single one is 100% unique. I can't duplicate them. Once they flow out, they're out, and I can never make the same one twice. Partly being because everything is always in change. So what does that mean, divine spiritual calligraphy or divine universal calligraphy? So if I use this card for an example, there is a number of representations on here. And this calligraphy, because it comes from, not from me, but through me, actually has an energetic signature or an energetic aspects to it. Now we can argue that everything has energy. Absolutely. A rock has energy. There's an atomic structure of things that are always in vibration. And absolutely that's true for everything. What's different about this is, yes, it has that, but it also has a spiritual component to it, which doesn't come from me. Again, I'm going to say this many times, it comes through me. So they share the energy to me, through me, and it manifests in the artwork. And then there's a sealing process where that energy is sealed to that medium. So it contains an energy. And then as a result of that, there is a way that someone who receives one of these calligraphies, whether it's an original or the card deck or through the book or greeting cards or art cards or prints, or they all have a representation of that original energy. That's the purpose of that, is the original ones share the energy down through all the duplicates. So as a person who receives these, you can activate that energy and receive that energy yourself. This is why they're so special in nature, is because you can utilize them not just to hang on the wall and they're pleasing to see, but they also share an energetic aspect, which is really represented through the message that they are sharing. Like this particular one here is called Divine Sense of Well-Being. So that's the calligraphy, and its energy that it shares with us is specific about a sense of well-being. So every one of these messages calligraphies has a name and an energetic message to share with us. So if we go back to the card, we can see here there's a large black character, a small red character, and a square little stamp here. Each one of these has a purpose. The large black character is actually the message, divine sense of well-being. The little red character here is the seal order. That's how it's called, the seal and order of the calligraphy. So this is the one that carries all the energy and the message, in this particular case, of the divine sense of well-being. And it always has an energetic expression. It is always exuding energy, like everything. If I use, for example, a flower, in the daytime when it's sunny outside and the light is shining from the sun on the flower and it's bringing warmth to the flower opens and completely blooms, and you can see the vibrancy of the colors, you can smell the aroma of the flower. It has a completely different expression in its awakened state. When the sun goes down, it gets a little cooler outside, that flower closes back up, and now it is in a resting state. Can you smell it the same? No. Can you see it the same? No. But it is still expressing an energetic life force. So that's what these calligraphies are like. They have a resting state and an active state, like all things. So, and the key to that is this little seal and order. So part of that, its role is to activate it, the calligraphy, into an active energetic expression mode, or to rest it back into a resting state. It also serves as a process of when the calligraphy is coming through me, this is how, when this comes through, that is the seal that is sealing everything into the medium. Parchment paper, rice paper, scroll, whatever that medium is, that energy is being sealed through that little calligraphy that goes in the corner. And then you say, I also said it's seal/order, so there's another spiritual aspect to it, meaning that it's a seal that seals the energy and message to the medium. It is also spirit saying we are sealing this like an official seal. Like a government document that has a stamp on it that says this is sealed. This is a seal saying that this is an official document. Well, this is like a spiritual seal from the spiritual realm saying this is an official spiritual message per se. And the order being that part that, yes, I'm using it to awaken and rest the calligraphy. So that's the breakdown of typically what a calligraphy looks like. And oftentimes when I do something for somebody, it could be more than one character. It could be. Sometimes it's a single character. Sometimes it could be multiple characters. That depends on the individual situation of what is manifesting at any one time. So as someone who receives one of these, you can utilize that. There's methods to awaken the calligraphies. There's ways you can meditate with it, move with it, use it to share its energy and message with you, to inspire you, or in some cases, even to assist in transformational change, or even to assist in your own personal healing journey. There's lots and lots of different ways we can incorporate these into my life. And if you liked watching this video on introducing you to these calligraphies, I have other videos on my website, www.garysavitsky.com, which will have instructions on how do we wake these up and how can we meditate with them and how can we use them for our own personal journey and perhaps the journey of others. So thank you for being with me today and allowing me to share with you divine spiritual calligraphies and to share this aspect of myself with you, knowing that these calligraphies aren't for me, but they're for you and us together because they come from the divine, or they come from spirit or soul, if we want to call it that. And really they're here to serve. And that's the most important part, is that they're here to serve. They're here to help us on our journey. So once again, thank you. And I hope you have an opportunity to experience divine spiritual calligraphies and that it serves your journey well.